Oh, you're gonna love this one. Get comfy, let your thoughts wander, and when you're ready, baby, dream of a new life.
The Enchanted Wager. Power Girls Awakening by Catherine Serafina. Chapter 10, October 21st to 23rd, 2025. Becca's house was quiet in the late afternoon, the kind of quiet that made the ticking kitchen clock sound like a metronome for your pulse. We dropped our bags by the door. She poured us both water like it was a ritual and led me to the couch. No Haley, no TV. Just the slant of sun across the rug, and Becca sitting angled toward me, one leg tucked under the other like she was bracing for something. "You know," she said lightly, like we were picking up a joke, "you thought you got away with it back then. Please." Her mouth curved. "I saw the orange dust on your shirt." I blinked. "What?" "Cheetos," she sing-songed, tapping the collar of my tee as if she could conjure the smear again. "Corner of your shirt. You washed your hands and face like a pro. You never checked your shirt, genius." Heat rushed up my neck. "I did wash. I was careful. With everything but the part I was staring at while you swore you hadn't slipped." Her eyes softened, but she didn't look away. "So what?" I managed, brittle. "You just let me get away with it?" Becca's head tilted. The light tone dropped a level. "No, you didn't just cheat, Kara. You lied to me." The word landed with more weight than I was ready for. "You looked me in the eye and acted like nothing happened. That's worse than slipping." The room pressed in. Lied echoed in my ribs like I'd swallowed it wrong. I stared at my hands. "Okay," I said, small. "So, what? You were mad?" "I gave you your penalty," she said simply. "Not because you slipped, because you covered it up." A beat. "Penalty? What penalty?" She didn't blink. "Flaunt Fuel. Every bottle since that day." For a second, I actually laughed, a short, ugly sound. "They're just energy drinks." "Normal energy drinks don't smooth your skin," Becca said, calm but cutting. "They don't grow your hair 3 inches in a week. They don't make D-cups appear out of nowhere." The air pulled tight. Every moment I tried to file under coincidence, my hands slimmer around a pencil, hips aching as if widening in their sleep, the way fabric slid differently over my chest, rose up like evidence in a trial I hadn't realized we were having. The fridge lined like a little shrine, the craving that never felt like a craving until the bottle cracked. "Oh my God," I whispered. "You tricked me?" My voice came back sharp, higher than I meant. "You drugged me?" She stayed very still. Not cruel, not gloating, just steady. "I gave you what you were already becoming," she said. "The drinks didn't force it. They just sped it up, showed you what you've been hiding." I stood up because sitting hurt, because anger needed a place to go, and the living room was too small to hold it. I paced 3 steps, turned, paced again, words forming and falling apart before they reached my mouth. Every time I tried to land on fury, something in me slipped and I landed on truth instead. The relief of soft skin. The way the mirror had stopped being an enemy. The way the name didn't scrape anymore when it passed my ears. "Look at you, Kara," Becca said, voice gentling. "Do you really want to tell me this isn't who you are? That it doesn't fit? That you don't feel more alive like this than you ever did before?" My mouth tried to shape a no. It came out as air. She smiled, small and real. "See, you've been Kara for weeks. I just helped you catch up." My shoulders dropped like someone had unhooked invisible weights. I sank back onto the couch, palms pressed to my knees to stop the tremor. "So, I lost the bet before it even started?" "No," she shook her head. "You never lost. The bet was the excuse. Kara was always gonna win." I groaned at the wordplay because it was easier than admitting it soothed something raw. A long breath shivered out of me. The fight I'd been dragging behind me finally let go. Becca reached for my hand. I let her take it. "Which means," she said, a glint returning to her eyes, "Power Girl is officially locked in for Halloween. And honestly, she won't just fit. She'll own the night." I stared at our joined hands, at the pale blonde hair curling over my wrist like a signature I hadn't meant to write but recognized anyway. The pieces had slammed together, and the picture they made wasn't a trap so much as a map I'd been following blind. "God," I said, half laugh, half breath. "You're impossible." "Accurate," she said, squeezing once. "And right." Silence settled again, softer this time. In it, the clock ticked, the house creaked, and the rush of my pulse slowed from panic to something almost like anticipation. I thought of the weekend with her and Haley, how I'd said I hated shopping, and then walked out wearing jeans that fit and a tee that didn't hide, how the salesgirl had said the V-neck worked and I'd pretended not to glow. I thought of the suit in Becca's closet, precise and unapologetic, waiting like a thesis to be defended. I looked up. "If I'm doing this," I said, voice steadying, "we do it my way. Not because you won, because I'm choosing it." Becca's smile turned luminous. "Deal." "Also," I added, because Normal had to live here too, "if Haley makes one more sexy pirate wench joke, I'm dunking her in the punch bowl." "Noted," Becca said gravely, then ruined the effect by laughing. We sat like that for another minute, the sun sliding lower, the decision settling in without fanfare. When I finally stood, my reflection in the dark TV caught a ghost of a cape across my shoulders that wasn't there, and the shape of me that undeniably was. I didn't flinch. Kara was not a chase anymore. She was the room I was already in. By Wednesday, it didn't feel strange anymore to walk out of the house without the hoodie or the cap. 3 days into wearing the new clothes Becca and Haley had pushed me into buying, the world hadn't ended. In fact, it was easier. The jeans fit instead of sagging, the top skimmed instead of swallowing me whole, and people just accepted it. They didn't stare like they were trying to do the math. They just saw me. That comfort was still strange in its own way. Comfortable wasn't supposed to be the point. And yet, halfway to second period, I caught myself thinking back to the weekend. The mall had been an ambush. Becca with her relentless armfuls of clothes, Haley cracking jokes about how I took longer than she did in the changing room. I'd sulked, muttered, said this was pointless. And then I'd tried on those jeans, the ones that clung in all the places I couldn't pretend weren't mine anymore, the V-neck that didn't hide the shape pressing against it. We hadn't stopped at basics. Becca had dragged me into lingerie too. At first, I'd frozen in the doorway, cheeks burning, but they'd shoved me along until I was holding delicate lace and cotton in my hands. Panties that were designed to cover curves I now had. Panties that actually fit because there was nothing left to hide, because I was, in every way that mattered, female. The memory left me flushed, the echo of the mirror still vivid. Standing there in the changing room, the bra snug, the panties hugging me in a way nothing else ever had, I'd felt the last argument crumble. Now, walking down the hall, that same sensation tugged at me again. I bit back the smile, threatening to break, forcing my face flat, but the memory wouldn't let go. It hadn't just been shopping, it had been fun. And admitting that was the most dangerous part. By midweek, the whole school felt like it was running on pumpkin spice and adrenaline. The party at Mike's wasn't news anymore. It was oxygen. Every hallway hummed with costume talk. "I'm telling you, we're doing Ghostbusters." A guy bragged to his friends by the vending machines. Full jumpsuits, proton packs, none of that cheap stuff. 2 girls near the stairwell squealed about finishing their glittery angel wings. Another group debated whether matching vampire capes were cool or cringe. It was impossible to walk 10 feet without hearing plans, arguments, last-minute brainstorms, but every so often, like a current under the noise, my name floated up. "Power girl," someone murmured as I passed. "She's got the look for it. Bet she nails it." The words stuck, not mocking, admiring. Boys paused mid-locker slam, eyes flicking, not cruel but curious. Girls leaned together with grins that said they were in on something undeniable. At lunch, it broke surface. A sophomore leaned halfway across another table and asked, bold as anything, "So, is it true? You're going as Power Girl?" The old Ken would have snapped back, sharp and defensive, but the answer jammed in my throat. All I managed was a shrug, my cheeks burning. Not yes, not no. "Be at the party to find out," I muttered, barely above a whisper. That tiny silence was gasoline. Faces lit up, whispers caught like sparks. "She didn't deny it." The rumor didn't just spread, it bloomed, brighter every time it passed another set of ears. And for once, the weight that followed me down the hallway wasn't ridicule. It was expectation. Becca's room looked like it had been hit by a Comic-Con tornado. Makeup bags open, fabric draped over the chair, a cape slung across the bed frame. She sat cross-legged on the floor, eyeing me like I'd wandered in just to be her mannequin. "You know what's funny?" she said, tilting her head. "You're not even trying right now, and you look more like Power Girl than half the cosplay feeds on Insta. Casual jeans, a tee, messy hair, and still." Her hand made a vague gesture at my curves, at the way my chest pushed against fabric that had definitely not been made for Didi's. I groaned. "Do you ever stop?" "Not when I'm right," she shot back, standing to pull a garment bag from the back of her closet. The white suit shimmered under the light, pristine and unforgiving. "Come on, another fitting, just to check." I shook my head, though it didn't have much heat behind it. "Becca, this isn't about bets anymore," she cut in, voice soft but insistent. "It's about walking into that party like you own it. And trust me, Kara, you already do." The name still hit me like a pebble in a pond rippling outward, unsettling but less foreign each time. Beside her, Haley flopped onto the bed, propping herself up on her elbows. And for the record, I'm not exactly blending in either. Red hair's destiny, poison ivy, was inevitable. She grinned like she'd been planning it for weeks. "Which leaves me as Supergirl," Becca announced, tossing her hair back with mock drama, "because clearly Superman's not an option." The three of us laughed, and I realized just how deliberate the lineup was. Power Girl, Supergirl, Poison Ivy. It felt like more than costumes. It felt like a declaration. When the suit finally slid back into place, there was no denying it anymore. The cups filled perfectly now, every seam snug without strain. My posture shifted without me willing it. Shoulders square, chin lifted. The cape brushed my thighs when I turned, hair spilling too long and too bright to be anything but part of the look. Becca leaned back, eyes wide with something halfway between pride and awe. "God, you're not wearing a costume," she said softly. "You're just showing up." Haley smirked, trying to cut the intensity. "Careful, Becca. If you stare any harder, you'll have to start charging admission." But Becca didn't even flinch. She doesn't get it yet, but she will. And for the first time, I didn't rush to argue. The house was quiet by the time I made it home, that soft kind of silence where even the fridge hum seemed distant. I closed my bedroom door and stood in front of the mirror, still in the clothes Becca and Haley had strong-armed me into buying fitted jeans that curved where I curved, a simple tee that didn't try to hide what no hoodie could anymore. For a moment, my eyes drifted to the back of the closet, where Ken's old clothes sagged on their hangers. Hoodies too broad, jeans too flat. They looked lifeless, like they belonged to somebody I used to know. Somebody I wasn't anymore. My throat tightened. The bet was over. Not because Becca had beaten me, but because Ken had already slipped away. What stood here now wasn't a loser. It was someone new. I touched the mirror with my fingertips, tracing the faint outline of my reflection-pale hair spilling over my shoulders, lips soft, chest rising against the thin cotton of the tee. No trace of him. Just her. Just Kara. "I'll wear it," I whispered. Not for Becca, not for the bet. For me. Because Kara wasn't a costume. She was real. The words barely stirred the air, but the girl in the mirror heard them, and she smiled back.
Did that leave you wanting more? The naughty version's waiting for you on my Patreon, along with so many other juicy little secrets. Go on, baby. You know where to find me.